Meri Brown destroys Kody in court. Robyn collapses in tears after judge's shocking ruling. It started with a voice that had been silent for years, a voice that had endured betrayal, heartbreak, and the weight of a family dynamic built to keep her small. The silence ended inside a tense courtroom, where the sound of footsteps echoed with the kind of gravity that made everyone turn their heads. Meri Brown rose from her seat and began walking toward the witness stand. No cameras were allowed inside, but if they had been, every lens would have been fixed on her. This was not the Meri people had seen on television, soft-spoken, smiling faintly in the background while others took the center stage. This was a woman stepping into the spotlight of justice, her quiet dignity sharpened into resolve. She wore a dark blue blazer, her blonde hair pulled back in a no-nonsense knot. In her hand she carried a thick folder, the weight of years of receipts, contracts, and evidence she had kept while doing the emotional labor of holding her family together, only to receive so little in return. Her eyes didn't blink as she walked past Robyn, who sat next to Kody. They had been the couple at the center of the family in recent years, but today their united front meant nothing. Meri's gaze met Kody's, the man who once promised her an equal life and spiritual dignity, and then shifted to the judge. She adjusted the microphone slightly downward. The room went still. "Your Honor," she began, her voice steady but vibrating with the tremor of years of suppressed anger and grief. "I stand here today to reclaim what was owed to me. Not only as a wife, but as a woman, as a mother, as a human being." She glanced at Kody, who sat rigid, arms folded across his chest, his jaw set in the same stubbornness that had ended so many conversations before. "I want what's mine," she continued. "And I'm not backing down." Murmurs swept across the gallery. For years, viewers of Sister Wives had watched her stand loyally as the first wife of a man who gradually shifted his affection elsewhere. They had seen the breakdown of her marriage play out in front of cameras, the isolation, the loneliness, the catfishing scandal that became public fodder, and the way she tried to hold on to a family already dissolving. But this wasn't about old heartbreaks or past scandals. This was about a piece of land in Arizona called Coyote Pass. 12 acres of open ground that had once symbolized a shared dream, 4 homes for 4 wives, a future built together. Kody had called it their legacy. In Meri's mind, it had been a promise. Now, she was here to confront the reality that the legacy had been stolen. Behind Meri, Janelle sat with her arms crossed, her lips pressed into a tight line. The years had etched themselves into their faces, but in Janelle's eyes burned the same betrayal Meri felt. They weren't here as sister wives anymore. They were here as allies, 2 women who had been pushed to the edges of their own lives and who had decided they weren't going to stay there. The judge nodded at her to continue. Meri unfolded a piece of paper from her folder and held it up. "This," she said, "is an August 14, 2018 payment statement, a deposit from my business account into the family trust. This trust was created to cover the Coyote Pass property. And yet my name does not appear anywhere on the deed." She pulled out another paper. "This is an email from our real estate broker, confirming my investment interest. And this," she said, her voice tightening, "is a duplicate of our sister wives' contract, signed by all the wives, agreeing that income from filming would be used to support our shared future, building homes on this land." Meri's lawyer gave her a small nod. She went on. "When Kody and I divorced legally in 2014 so he could adopt Robyn's children, I believed that our spiritual marriage and our family covenants would still be honored. That was a lie." Robyn shifted uncomfortably in her chair, eyes lowered. Meri's voice didn't waver. "I gave 30 years to this family. I raised a child. I helped build the show that made this property possible. And now I've been told, quietly, indirectly, but deliberately, that I'm not worthy of a single acre. I surrendered my legal marriage. I surrendered my voice. But I am done giving." The judge asked if Meri was claiming that Coyote Pass had always been intended to be split equally among the wives. "Yes," Meri said. "That was the agreement, verbally, financially, and on paper. And when asked when she learned her name wasn't on the deed, she explained she didn't find out until late 2023, when Janelle began comparing documents. When she confronted Kody, he claimed he had worked harder, so he should own more. But the original agreement had nothing to do with who made what, it was about family, and an equal share for each wife. Kody's lawyer objected, claiming Meri hadn't contributed financially the way Kody had. That her role was spiritual rather than financial. Meri's attorney stood, her voice cutting through the courtroom. This family was one financial entity. The TV income, business revenue, and common accounts were all intertwined, by design, by Mr. Brown. Meri wasn't just a spiritual wife. She was an unpaid partner in a decades-long enterprise that funded Coyote Pass. What unfolded over the following hours peeled back years of smiling interviews and carefully edited television narratives. Meri and Janelle produced proof of payments, thousands of dollars transferred from their personal earnings into accounts used for the property purchase. They revealed tax records showing they had been held liable for property taxes on land they didn't legally own. And then came the emails from Kody to the property lawyer, stating, "It's better if we finalize before the wives start asking questions." Emails from Robyn saying, "We don't want the other wives to make things messy." The defense argued the wording was being taken out of context, but the meaning was clear. The betrayal hadn't come suddenly. It had been a slow bleed, hidden under years of shifting explanations and family rhetoric. Meri recalled the early days in Flagstaff, when Kody stood by a fire pit telling them they'd each have a section of the land. That this was their shared future. She had clung to those words at a time when she was barely holding on. Now she understood those promises for what they were, temporary reassurances meant to keep her quiet. In 2023, the truth surfaced when Janelle went to the courthouse to clarify a tax notice. She found only 2 names on the property deeds, Kody Brown and Robyn Brown. No Meri. No Janelle. When they each confronted him separately, he gave them the same excuse, "I paid more, so I own more." But the money had come from shared sources, the very existence of which depended on the involvement of all the wives. When it was Kody's turn on the stand, he admitted he hadn't informed Meri of the deed transfer because he didn't think she was interested anymore. He acknowledged that she had contributed financially but insisted he had to act fast and couldn't wait for everyone's approval. It was a flimsy justification in the face of documented evidence. Then came Robyn. On the stand, she initially tried to appear cooperative, saying she had always believed the land was meant for everyone. But under cross-examination, she admitted to signing documents that excluded Meri and Janelle without verifying the details. She claimed she was just following orders and trusted Kody to handle it. When presented with her own email telling the lawyer to finalize everything before the others noticed, she broke down, crying and apologizing to Meri directly. But the facts stood, she had co-ownership of 3 lots that Meri and Janelle had helped pay for. The judge listened to it all, her expression grave. In the final ruling, she declared that verbal, written, and financial agreements had existed among all parties, and that Meri and Janelle had a legitimate expectation of joint ownership. She found that Kody, with Robyn's help, had transferred and secured the property without fair disclosure or compensation. The order was clear. The property would be appraised at market value, and Meri and Janelle would be reimbursed equally, or the land would be sold and divided evenly among all 4 original wives. Meri didn't cheer when the decision was read. She simply breathed out, 30 years of being overlooked released in one long exhale. Outside, she addressed the press, saying, "I never wanted it to end here. I believed in this family. I gave everything, my time, my loyalty, my name, and my silence. But silence doesn't serve justice. And loyalty doesn't equal surrender. For years I was made to believe I didn't count. Today, I've been heard." In the aftermath, Kody railed in interviews, calling the case a witch hunt. But even some of his children publicly sided with Meri and Janelle. Robyn retreated from the public eye, avoiding cameras and speculation about her future on the show. Months later, Meri stood in her own home, a small cabin-style house outside Park City, Utah. It wasn't lavish, but it was hers. Every inch of it belonged to her alone. She streamed a live video for her supporters, smiling as she walked through the rooms. "It's not just a house," she said. "It's proof you can start over at any age, from any place." In her hand was a coffee mug that read, "I matter." The courtroom had given her land, but the real victory was reclaiming her voice. For years, she had been portrayed as desperate, weak, clinging to a marriage long gone. But the truth was she had been faithful, to a fault. That faithfulness had been exploited, but it had not destroyed her. When her moment came, she didn't just speak. She made sure everyone in the room heard her. And once she started, there was no going back. It began with a voice that had been silent for decades, but one that would never be silenced again. The courthouse was heavy with tension as the sound of footsteps echoed against the polished floor. Meri Brown rose from her seat, shoulders squared, moving toward the stand with the calm precision of someone who had been preparing for this moment all her life. No cameras were allowed, but if they had been, every lens would have been locked on her, the woman who had once lingered quietly in the shadows of a polygamous family now stepping into the center of justice. She wore a dark blue blazer, her blonde hair pulled back into a no-nonsense knot. In her hand was a bulging folder of documents, years of evidence, years of sacrifices made for a family that had given her little in return. Her eyes did not blink as she walked past Robyn, seated beside Kody. She did not falter when she met the eyes of the man who had once promised her equality, love, and spiritual dignity. At the microphone, she lowered it slightly, her voice steady but laced with the tremors of long-buried anger and grief. "Your Honor," she began, "I stand here to reclaim what was owed to me, not just as a wife, but as a woman, as a mother, and as a human being. I want what's mine. And I'm not backing down." Murmurs rippled through the gallery. For years, Meri had been the loyal first wife, the one who had endured Kody's gradual shift of affection toward Robyn. Viewers of Sister Wives had watched her marriage crumble under the glare of reality TV, had witnessed her loneliness, her public humiliation during the catfishing scandal, and her desperate attempts to stay attached to a family that was disintegrating. But today was not about the past, it was about Coyote Pass, a 12-acre property in Flagstaff, Arizona, a place that had once been a shared dream. In the early days, it was Kody's grand vision. Each wife would have her own parcel, their homes close enough to remain connected but far enough for space. It was supposed to be their legacy. But somewhere along the way, that legacy had been stolen. Behind Meri sat Janelle, her arms crossed, her lips pressed into a thin line. The years had carved deep lines into both women's faces, but the fire in their eyes was the same, a shared, searing sense of betrayal. They were no longer sister wives. They were allies. Meri began presenting her evidence. An August 14, 2018 payment statement from her business account into the family trust meant to fund the Coyote Pass purchase. An email from their real estate broker confirming her stake. A signed TLC show contract stating that family income from filming would be invested equally into building their shared future. When she and Kody had legally divorced in 2014 so that he could adopt Robyn's children, she had believed his assurance that their spiritual marriage and their equality remained intact. That, she said, turning toward Kody, was a lie. The courtroom air tightened. Robyn shifted uncomfortably, Kody's jaw hardened. Meri's voice never wavered as she explained how she had discovered the truth in 2023 when Janelle, investigating a property tax notice, realized that neither of their names appeared on any deed. Every parcel was registered only to Kody and Robyn. When confronted, Kody claimed he had contributed more financially and therefore deserved greater control. But, as Meri's lawyer argued, the funds had come from shared accounts, business ventures, and sister wives' earnings, income built on the participation and image of all the wives. Evidence revealed damning details, a 2021 land transfer filing placing one parcel into joint tenancy with Robyn, without informing the others. Emails from Kody to the property attorney stated that it was more desirable to complete paperwork prior to the wives asking questions. An email from Robyn followed. We don't want the other wives to make things messy. Better if we finalize everything before they notice. Robyn's defense was shaky at best. She claimed she thought Meri and Janelle had lost interest, that she was just following orders. Under cross-examination, she admitted to co-owning 3 parcels and never questioning why the others' names had been removed. When pressed about her email, she insisted she meant emotionally messy, not deceitful. But the gallery could sense it, her explanations rang hollow. Meri's testimony was calm but unyielding. She described transferring $18,200 from her boutique business into the joint account for the land purchase, believing it secured her plot. She had paid property taxes on land she did not legally own, all because she trusted Kody. I invested my money, my name, and my dignity in a man who made me invisible, she told the judge. 3 weeks later, the ruling came. The judge found that verbal, written, and financial agreements had been made and honored in good faith by Meri and Janelle, but violated by Kody and Robyn. The court ordered the property to be reappraised at market value, with Meri and Janelle to be reimbursed within 90 days or the land to be sold and divided equally among all 4 original wives. Meri didn't cheer. She didn't cry. She simply exhaled the years of suppression and betrayal. Outside, she told reporters, silence doesn't serve justice, and loyalty doesn't equal surrender. For years, I was made to believe I didn't count. Today, I've been heard. Months later, Meri used her share to buy a modest cabin in Utah. It wasn't grand, but it was hers, every acre, every wall. On a live stream, she told her followers, it's not just a house. It's proof you can start over at any age, from anywhere. The mug in her hand read, I matter. And now, she truly did.